Yo, what's good, YouTube, man? It's Gary, which is on the Fan TV. Back at you, the video, the content. The video, go smash that like button. The content of this channel, go subscribe, man. Look, the Ravens take a tough loss to the Detroit Lions, 38-30 last night on Monday Night Football, right? Let's talk about it. Let's go through the game, give my reactions to it, my thoughts about the game, my thoughts about now that the fact that the Ravens sit at 1-2 on the season and they got to go into Kansas City next week, right? So with a hey, 1-3 is staring them right in the face, right? Kansas City's has their issues as well, but the Ravens also have their issues, right? So all right, let's talk about it, right? All right. Now once again, kudos to the Detroit Lions. They played a great game, right? So anything I say here ain't about taking away from the Lions, right? The Lions did what they supposed to do. They came in, good dub, good win for them, all right? So I'll start off with this, right? We'll start with some positive, and then we'll get into the rest of it, right? To me, positive. Mark Andrews, right? Mark Andrews, 6 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, granted, the last touchdown came, I guess you can call it kind of garbage time. Right? Ravens still had a slight chance, but it was kind of garbage time. But still, 6 catches, 91 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great game for him. Rashad Bateman, 5 catches, 63 yards, 1 touchdown. Bateman really kind of woke up in the second half of that game, right? They finally got him involved. And then, lastly, kind of Jordan Stout, right? Before that last punt, that was like 38 yards. He was having a really good game. He's pinning the Detroit Lions back. And the Ravens didn't take advantage. We'll definitely talk about that. But he was pinning the Detroit Lions back. Jordan Stout has gotten a lot better punting the ball this year, right? So, I know I don't typically talk about the punter, but good for him. He's gotten a lot better because he's taken a lot of criticism from Ravens fans, in the last couple of years as well, right? But anyway, all right. So let's talk about the game. Let's talk about the game. All right. So defensively, to me, is where most of my issues and worries lie. So I'll talk about that last. But so we'll talk about the offense, right? The offense, I thought it was really nice to see that Derrick Henry got on track and got started in the first half, right? Especially that first drive of the game, right? He breaks off his longest run of the game. He scores a touchdown. I think that run was like 28 yards, something like that. Yeah, it was like 28-yard touchdown run. It was a good start to the game for Derrick Henry. It was a good start for that right side of the offensive line because that's where a lot of the big runs were coming from, right? So you say, okay, the Ravens are getting back on track. The running game's getting back on track. And then after that, it wasn't really much else, right? When it comes to the Ravens run game, right? They didn't really, it wasn't really getting a lot of push up front. Derrick Henry is getting stopped in the backfield a lot. It's not just about him. The offensive line didn't seem like after that first half, really after that first quarter, the push just wasn't the same up front. All right. So to me, that was worrying, right? But I would say this: the Ravens pass game for the most part was fine. I would say this is one of those games, right? And when I say this, please, guys, please, I'm not blaming Lamar for the loss. I think this loss is entirely really on the defense, right? Lamar Jackson was 21 to 27, 288, and 3 touchdowns. He was more than fine last night, right? I do think sometimes he gets into these, especially when the Ravens are losing, right? He gets into that superhero, I gotta do everything bag, right? And that sometimes where it calls for it and it works out great, and Lamar Jackson makes one of those highlight plays, right? But you got to toe the fine line, right? The Ravens take, let's see, I believe the Ravens take 7 sacks, yeah. 7 sacks last night, right? At least 3, 4 of them is because Lamar Jackson refuses to throw the ball away. Okay. And I love Lamar. If Lamar, it's one of those things where it's like, well, if Lamar makes those plays, you talk about how great he is, right? And you're right. You're absolutely right. You know what I'm saying? But they showed the stat on ESPN. Lamar Jackson since the last 2 years averages under one throwaway a game. They says it's the fewest in the NFL, or second fewest in the NFL. He doesn't throw the football away, right? And sometimes that can kill your drive, right? So once again, he played a really good game, right? He played a good game, but some of those sacks are really killers when you could just throw the football away and live to fight another down. That's kind of, to me, Lamar has made so many great steps in his progression. That's another step you got to make. When is the play dead, right? Can I throw the football away? You know what I mean? I don't have to just take this sack, throw it away, throw it out of bounds. Right? Especially if I notice I can't get out, I can't shake them, throw it out of way, throw it away. You feel me? But anyway, I will also say that the Ravens offensive line wasn't that great in pass blocking. They were okay. They were solid, I think Lamar Jackson, we're going to have to watch this, right? I think he's going to go back to taking really deep drops, like 10-yard drops, right? 10, 12-yard drops, so that if the rush comes, he can escape through the middle. I think we're going to get better at that. So like Lamar, if you notice in the beginning of the game, he doesn't do that, right? He'll see how the offensive line is playing, he'll feel it out, and then if he says, okay, they're not blocking how I want them to block tonight, I'm going to take this really deep drop. I can pass them back here, cool. If not, I can escape up the middle because I just set the pocket so deep, right? So I think we can go back to seeing that, right? You know what I mean? Just off rip, right? Him just dropping back really deep in the pocket so he can, that makes him feel comfortable, right? And he may have to do that, honestly, right? All right. But that's really my thoughts on the offense, right? Like they didn't really play a bad game. You scored 30 points and whatnot. The goal line, the goal situation was frustrating, right? But we can't say they didn't give Derrick Henry the ball. They gave Derrick Henry the ball. He didn't score. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like we can say, oh, here go the Ravens again, overthinking it at the goal line. I give Derrick Henry the ball. They did. He didn't score, right? That's on the offensive line. That's on Derrick Henry. That's on all of them. And then the Ravens, to me, they do these rollout plays a lot, and they're not very good at them. And I wish they would stop doing them. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not stop doing them. No, I'll take that back. I like the rollout plays when you get Lamar Jackson on the edge off of play action. I do like that, right? So let me not say that. But I'm saying when it's goal line or it's obvious short yardage situations, they just don't seem to be very effective at doing them. I mean, I'm just going to be quite honest. So, but in the regular flow of the offense, I like rollouts because you get a dangerous athlete like Lamar Jackson on the edge where he can throw the ball to anybody that's open and also take off around the corner. So that's a great play to me. All right. So once again, Lamar played a really good game, right? So I'm please let me hear me when I say it. He played a really good game. I just think the sacks sometimes he can take are unnecessary. Like I said, Ravens take 7 sacks. I would say at least 3, 4 of them are just because Lamar doesn't throw the ball away. Like you gotta throw the ball away, bro. You gotta throw it away, bro. And then also, he got caught a lot by the defensive lineman. I mean, DJ Reader, I think Al Qadim Muhammad, sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name, but he was getting caught by the ankles a lot by defensive linemen, and that was a shocking part of the game too. So, shout out to the Lions for that, but that was kind of shocking, honestly. All right. Now when we talk about the defense, right? The defense, it's extremely worrying, right? They missed 90 BK tonight in the biggest way. All right. The Lions, let me get the yardage out here so I know for sure what the Lions ran for, but I know it's over 200 yards. So let's see that. Let's start there. The Lions ran the ball for 224 yards. The Ravens ran the ball for 85. Okay. Big difference right there. Lions had 38 attempts, 5.9 yards a rush, pretty much 6 yards a rush, right? And really, Jahmyr Gibbs had did his thing, whatever. I think he had 2 touchdowns, but really they couldn't tackle David Montgomery. David Montgomery, the power back for Detroit Lions, is running all up and down on his Ravens defense, right? I believe he ends up with 12 carries. 12 carries, okay. 151 yards. Now he had a 72-yard touchdown, so that's a big part of it. But he ended up having 2 touchdowns himself, right? So this Ravens run defense without 90 at the BK was solely dependent on Travis Jones, right? And Travis Jones made a couple of good plays. Like he had a play in the first half where he literally launched the offensive lineman into Jahmyr Gibbs and knocked him back. The Ravens ended up getting a tackle for loss on that drive, right? On that play. But besides that, he didn't do much, right? And that's the issue with Travis Jones, right? He's coming up for a big contract. He has all the talent in the world, right? But he makes a couple of plays a game, and then we don't really hear from him. And then he does virtually nothing in pass rush. So that's why it's hard when guys like Travis Jones want to come for a contract. So are you just a run-stuffing defensive tackle? I don't see the Ravens paying you big money just to be that. By now, I was really hoping he developed a more of a pass rush back because when he came out of UConn, he could do that. He wasn't just a guy that was stuffing the run. He was a good pass rusher, but I haven't seen that from him. All right. The defensive line as a whole is bad. I'm not even going to say it's worrying. It's bad. They cannot get home with 4. They can't. It's like, Adafe Owe has had, I ain't gonna say taking a step back, but he's not playing how he played last year, right? He had 10 sacks last year. He's not playing the same way he got. The Ravens didn't touch Jared Goff, I believe, until late second quarter when they sent the all-out blitz and he had the dirt at Jahmyr Gibbs' feet on that 2-minute drive. That was like the first time they touched Jared Goff, Okay. So we're not even talking about getting pressure. Like, we're not even talking about getting sacks executed. We're talking about just getting pressure. The Ravens are not even getting pressure when they send 4. They got to send 7 guys to get pressure. That's not a viable way to play defense. Okay. Then on top of that, Zach Orr, right? Zach Orr is really, really struggling calling plays. Really struggling calling plays. Okay. The Ravens do these designs and disguises, and trying, set up these designer blitzes and whatnot, confuse the quarterback. It's not working. All right. Zach Orr too much, I think, is in his own mind trying to, show I'm a smart defensive coordinator, right? And he's doing things that's leaving holes in the defense. Okay. Very simply put, I do not need Mike Green and Tavius Robinson on third down dropping out to the middle of the field. Mike Green is dropping to the middle of the field with no idea where he's going. He's just dropping into the middle of the field. And I'm not blaming Mike Green, because your coach should put you in a situation. Why is one of your young, talented pass rushers drafted in the second round? We didn't draft him because he could drop back and play middle linebacker. That's not why he was drafted. It's third down. Get him on the edge and get after Jared Goff. The Ravens did not get after Jared Goff this game at all. I'm not sure they had a sack this game. They had 0 sacks, right? So I believe on the broadcast it said the Ravens had a 57-game streak of 1 sack, in 57 games, whatever, longest in the NFL. That's now over with. They didn't sack Jared Goff last night. Once again, I'm not even sure how many times they hit Jared Goff last night. Okay, and I saw Jared Goff making moves in the pocket, evading rushers, right? I'm not saying he juked somebody out crazy, but the fact that they couldn't get to Jared Goff was frustrating. Okay, so the Ravens defensive line is not good. Okay, if I had to tell you that, no, it's week 3, it's early, whatever, blah blah blah. I already said all these things. The Ravens do not have the DNA of a Super Bowl team, right? And this is why. Okay, the Ravens have a great quarterback, right? Lamar Jackson is a great quarterback, so you got that check marked off, right? I think they have a fine play caller in Ty Monk, and you got that box mark checked off. But the biggest thing you'll see with Super Bowl caliber teams is that they can win in the trenches. Right now, the Ravens cannot win on the trenches on either side of the ball. Okay. The offensive line as a whole is not getting pushed consistently. I'm not even going to call out Falele, whatever, because I thought he was fine for most of the game today. He didn't really have one of those, what are you doing, Falele plays this game, right? So good. So kudos to him for that. But as a unit, the offensive line is playing okay. And that might be pushing it, right? The defensive line, horrid, without Nnamdi Madubuike especially. They could not stop the run at all. They're not getting any push up front. And then, this is one of Roquan Smith's biggest weaknesses right here, is that if he has defensive linemen up front who can't hold on to the offensive line, Roquan is not taking on blockers. That's never been his game, right? He's not going to take on a blocker and shed him and make a tackle. That's never been Roquan Smith's game, because he's a smaller linebacker, believe it or not, whatever. That was one of his things coming out of Georgia. He will rather, try to dip under a block, evade a block, than take it head on. That's not what he does. So the Ravens front 7 ends up suffering as a whole, because you have defensive linemen who can't get any push. You have linebackers who cannot take on old linemen and get around them, right? I mean, I saw one of those plays. I think it was a David Montgomery long run, and they showed the end zone angle of it. And it's just an offensive lineman coming right at Teddy Buchanan. Teddy Buchanan doesn't even move. He's bracing for the hit, right? Now, to me, I mean, I'm sure that maybe that's how they taught to play, whatever. You know what to run. You can see the ball carrier. I would like to see Teddy Buchanan attack the blocker instead of waiting to get hit. Because if you wait to get hit, he gets his hands on you, you're not moving. So I mentioned linebacker play as a key to the game. The linebacker play wasn't there. I mentioned defensive line play as a key to the game. The defensive line play was not there. All right. So the Ravens as a whole, when you want to talk about Super Bowl caliber teams have a good offensive line and they have a good defensive line. I'm not sure the Ravens have either one. Okay. So it's early in the season. We'll say that until about week 7, week 8, and they're just going to become real. All right. I didn't even talk about the 290+ yard touchdown drives, right? So, the Ravens have real momentum in this game to get the ball back to their offense with a short field, and instead they let the Lions go 90+ 2 times, right? One drive is, I think, 18 plays, 10+ minutes off the clock. That's absolutely embarrassing as a defense to give up not one, but two 90-plus yard touchdown drives. So now it's not even just about your scheme and what Zach Orr is doing, which I don't think is very good right now. It's about your heart. Where's your heart at? No team, no offense should be going 90-plus yards on you. That should not be happening. But it happened twice in one game last night. Okay? So to me, that's embarrassing. All right. So the Ravens defensive effort last night to me was embarrassing. There are great teams in the NFL, right? So, the Lions did what they did. But if I expect this team to be a Super Bowl contender, that's not how you're supposed to play. It's not, right? You know what I mean? I'm just going to be completely honest with you. All right. And then, lastly, because it has to be mentioned, Derrick Henry it's no longer just a blip. He has a fumbling problem. I don't know if, I don't know what changed. And teams saw something on film where Derrick Henry is carrying the ball and this or that away, or maybe it's just teams have more emphasis now on pushing out the football. That could very well be the case because I think that's true. Whatever the reason is, teams are attacking the ball when Derrick Henry has it, right? Aiden Hutchinson makes maybe the play of the game, honestly. He strips Derrick Henry. The Ravens will have the ball. It's 28-24 with a chance to take the lead. Now the Ravens defense, they hold, they only allow a field goal, but still, it was time off the clock. It was momentum swinging, right? And obviously, it stops the Ravens from taking the lead. All the Ravens could do now there is tie unless they go for two, which they're not going to do down 1 point. In that situation, particularly, right? So it's just like play after play after play, time after time. This is 3 games, 3 fumbles for Derrick Henry, right? And 2 of those games were big momentum swinging fumbles, right? Fourth quarter fumbles, right? Versus the Bills. Now, this game goes way deeper than just one play. So it's not like saying Derrick Henry lost the Ravens this game. Of course not. But he got to figure that out. Dead serious, got to figure it out. All right. And then, Justice Hill, honestly, the running back room ain't playing that well. Justice Hill has not really been dynamic catching the ball or as a blocker. So I get that the Ravens are keeping Keaton Mitchell off the roster because he doesn't play special teams. I get it. But right now, that Ravens backfield, they need some pop. They need somebody dynamic. They need Keaton Mitchell to play something. He doesn't need to play a big percentage of the snaps, but they need him to play something, to do something different out there because it looks bland, it looks boring. All right, in the backfield right now, for the most part. So that's my thoughts on the game, right? The Ravens play a game versus a great team, versus a really, really good team, great team potentially, the Detroit Lions, and they get absolutely dominated up front, to me, on both sides of the ball for the majority of the game. And we keep saying this. Every time the Ravens go against teams with a good defensive line, they're in Lamar Jackson's lap. We continue to say this, right? Every time the Ravens go up against a team with a good offensive line, they get pushed off the ball on defense. So Eric DeCosta built a fine roster, right? But at the end of the day, they need pass rushers. The Ravens cannot get home with 4. And we've been saying that for years. I've been saying that for years. The Ravens won't take a step as an elite defense until you can get home with 4. And until they do that, they're not going to be able to stop anybody. You can have the best secondary in the world. They cannot cover guys for 3.5, 4+ seconds. No defense can do that. But the Ravens defenses have to do that because they don't get home with any pressure. No simulated pressures, no straight up rushing. They don't get home. So it is what it is. I see the defense in Seattle looks pretty good. That guy could have been the head coach here. What? I digress. That's my thoughts on it, man. Obviously, you guys, give me your thoughts in the comments. But the Ravens take a disappointing loss to the Detroit Lions. It's not about losing to the Lions. It's about the fact of how they lost this game. But yeah, give me your thoughts in the comments, man. It's Gabriel, just on the Fan TV. I'm out.